Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 12th episode of Lunch and Learn session. My name is Sash Brandy. Today I'll go through how to configure 3CX and Microsoft Teams direct routing. And we'll go through a short live demo how to do that as well. Most companies uses Teams mainly to communicate within the company, and uses PBX to communicate externally. But with direct routing, you can provide a way for Microsoft Teams to connect to the normal phone network. So you can make external calls directly from your Teams client. So let's look at basic requirements to what we need to configure Teams direct routing with 3CX. You'll obviously need a Office 365 administrator account to make all the changes on Microsoft 10. And 3CX and Microsoft Teams communicates with 3CX communicates with Microsoft Teams on new SIP port, which is 5062. So this needs to be open as well. So usually 3CX by default uses 5060 for normal SIP communications. 5061 is for TCP and TLS communications. So 5062 will be the new port that's required for Teams. You need to have Office phone numbers configured on Microsoft Office 365 users. Otherwise, it will not generate the user script. I will show this during the live demo. You'll also need a FQDN. You have to use a FQDN that is already registered on of Microsoft 365, and you cannot use on Microsoft domain. Finally, you need to generate SSL certificates for that 3CX FQDN. Of course, you will need a license to configure direct routing on Teams. You can either use Microsoft 365 E5 with audio conferencing, or you can use Microsoft 365 plan with Microsoft Teams phone standard license as an add-on, as you can see that on the screenshot on the left-hand side. So let's log into 3CX and see how we can configure Teams direct routing. So first you need to log into the 3CX Management Console. Yes, I logged in with my Microsoft account. That's one of the features you get once you integrate 3CX with Microsoft 365. So to do that, we go into settings and Microsoft 365. I've already gone through these settings because some of the settings takes few hours to come online. So I've already gone through all the settings. So I'll go through it with you again. Go into settings, Office 365, and first you need to log into your Azure portal and go to Azure Active Directory. You need to create a new app registration for 3CX. So 3CX can communicate with Teams as well. So go to app registration and start a new registration. So you can give me 3CX or whatever you need. And this can be a single tenant because we only need within the this tenant only. And finally, you can select Web URI and copy this code on 3CX, this one. Here. Then you can click register. Once you do that, you will see the newly created app registration here. And you can click that to get the application ID here. And you can copy that and paste it into 3CX. Finally, to configure the app, you need to go to authentication and allow ID tokens here. This will be used for signing. So just like I signed into 3CX Management Console using my Microsoft account. To do that, you need to allow this option. You can save that. After that, you need to generate a new key pair and need to upload the public key under on Azure portal. Again, going to certificates and secrets. I've already uploaded this. You can just simply upload your new certificate here. Last step, 3CX needs some permissions in order to integrate with Office 365. So to do that, go into app permissions. And again, I have allowed all these apps before. Go to app permissions and Microsoft Graph and application permissions. And you can start searching these over here. Once you do that, add all the permissions. You need to go back into app permissions and grant admin consent. It can take about a minute or two for the status to turn green. Once that happens, go back into 3CX and sign into the Microsoft account, same Microsoft account that you used to make these changes. So I'm not going to sign in here. Once you do that, all your users will start populating on the users. So go into user sync, and you can either sync all the users from Microsoft, or you can select particular users. In my case, I only selected 3 users. And if you click OK and go into users, you can see all those users here. So you can see the Microsoft synced users, this stuff, and you can even see the 3CX local users here as well. All right, so once you do that, so you have successfully integrated Office 365 with 3CX.
Before you move on, Sats, just quickly before you move on, mate, sorry. So with the certificate part of it, that certificate, you need to go and get that from a CA, is that correct?
No, this is, it's not this, but for this one, you can just simply generate from here. That is a 3CX generated certificate.
Okay.
And the CA certificate comes under direct routing over here.
Okay.
I will get to that.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And over here, you can configure sign in, just like I sign in using my Microsoft account. You can specify which users can sign into Management Console as administrators, or which users can sign into web client or the Management Console as just users. And you can sync your contact list and calendars. I haven't gone through this stuff. Finally, you can go into TM's direct routing to start configuring the direct routing part. So we can start making calls from 3CX client, Teams client. So first, you need to enable the Teams direct routing, and you need to specify a specific. You need to specify Teams domain, and this needs to be within your mail domain. You cannot use the on Microsoft domain. So it needs to be within the mail domain that is registered on Office 365. So in this case, I use teams.alloy.com.au. And after that, you need to generate SSL certificate. This is where you need to go to the CA and get your private keys and SSL certificates, and you need to upload them here. By default, I think the certificate will come as .crt, and you can simply rename that to the .pem, as it needs to be .pem to upload into 3CX. Once you do that, you can start generating scripts and start uploading them on PowerShell. So first, you can select which country you want to, which country. So I've selected Australia here, and you need to click generate dial plan. It will look something like this. Then simply you can right click on the file and run with PowerShell. But if you have not installed the Teams modules, if you haven't done this before, you can log into PowerShell as administrator and install this Teams module first and connect to Teams. So I have already installed Teams module. So let's connect to Teams, and it will. There you go. It will ask you to log in with your administrator account. Once you do that, you can start running these commands. I personally run these commands one by one, but you can just run the entire script. After that, if you log into the Teams admin portal under voice direct routing, you will see a new SPC that you've configured. This network effectiveness and the other stats will be low. I believe the network effectiveness starts at 0. Don't be alarmed. It will improve as you start making calls on 3CX. Start making calls on Teams. And finally, you can go back into 3CX. Once you do that, into generator user script. Before you do that, go to the admin portal again and make sure you have configured the outbound number in E614 format. So it needs to be +61 and the phone number. And you need to have correct license applied for this account. In this case, I have E3 license and Microsoft Teams Phone Standard license. After that, you can generate a user script. It will look something like this. If you made a mistake and if you didn't configure the outbound Office phone number, this users field will be empty. So make sure you configure the outbound caller ID before you run the script. It'll look something like this. Then you need to, again, go back into PowerShell and run these commands one by one, or you can run the entire script. After that, you can start making calls on Teams. Just remember, once you assign this license to the users, it can take up to 24 hours for it to properly activate on that user. So when you log into the Teams client, and if you go into calls, you might not see a dial pad here. If that happens, first double check if you've applied all the licenses correctly. If so, you just need to wait. For me, it took about 2.5 hours for the dial pad to appear, but it can vary. After that, you can just simply start making calls using you can call internally to the other extensions. So if I go into 3CX, and external calls, or even you can check your voicemails and everything. So there is no limitations when you configure an extension with Teams. You can add them into ring groups. You can add them into call queues, and all the call records will pop up on the CDRs, except the calls that you make between, say you have two direct routing partners, direct routing Teams extensions. If you make call between those two Teams extensions, it will not populate on the CDRs. Other than that, everything else will be the same, just like using another 3CX extension. Finally, yeah. So this is just a bit of troubleshooting that I had to go through. So when I was doing it, I forgot to enter the telephone number. So the script initially looked like this. And for some extensions, I didn't have the correct outbound call ID. So it looked like this. It gave, when you generate the user script, you can see these errors. Then you can fix it and regenerate it again. Similar to that, like I said, it can take up to 24 hours for license to properly activate on the accounts. So if you try to run the user script, and if you get an error like this, double check you have applied all the assigned all the correct license. If so, we just need to wait and try again because it can take some time. That's pretty much it. There are really good documentations on 3CX website for Teams direct routing as well. These are two step-by-step guide and the video demonstration by 3CX CEO. So I actually follow these guys when I'm configuring this, and worked out fine. Do you guys have any questions?
All right, guys. So if you do have any questions, just chuck them into the Q&A section and we'll read them out and go through them. So just quickly, Sas, I've got a question for you. So when you created this direct routing link between 3CX and Teams, did it automatically create the outbound and inbound rules for all these users? Like for outbound, when a call's coming from Teams to 3CX, what outbound rule does it use? Or does it just match whatever your number you're dialing?
Yeah, it just matches what number you're dialing. You don't need any specific outbound rules. So over here, I just have just a wildcard outbound rule, and it works fine. You don't need any specific inbound or outbound rules on 3CX.
Okay, and you can use whatever voice carrier you want on 3CX as well for this.
That's right. Yes.
But the voice carrier itself doesn't have to support Teams direct routing because that's actually done between 3CX and Teams. Exactly.
Yeah. So the direct routing part is between 3CX and Teams, so it doesn't really matter what voice carrier you use. In our case, I use LA voice SIP trunks.
All right, so we've got a couple of questions coming through. So what is a use case for this? So I can answer this if you want, Sas, or you can answer it. Up to you.
Go for it. Sorry.
All right, thanks. So I think, Aaron, probably the best use case is for this is probably when users are migrating from a PBX system to Teams. It just means that they can use both systems side by side initially before they migrate across to a full Teams calling platform. Another use case is the limitations in what you can do as a phone system as a whole in Microsoft Teams is definitely limited compared to what you can do in 3CX. So, you know, with 3CX, you've got more advanced PBX functionality than what Teams has. So you can do all your call handling in 3CX. So, you know, going through your auto attendance, playing your messages, forwarding calls to queues and whatnot. And then those calls, once those calls have been, you know, handled by the PBX, then it will get forwarded onto the Teams client itself to be able to take that call. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, will the webinar be emailed to us? So Ross, the webinar will be recorded. It'll be up on the Alloy website and YouTube channel either later today or early tomorrow morning. Okay, Mark, when you create a queue in 3CX, does it populate into the Teams console? For a reception, would you suggest, sorry, it's two different questions here. Okay, so for the first one, Sas, do you want to answer that one?
populated Teams console. I'm not sure what you mean by.
So when you create a call queue in 3CX, it's not creating the exact same call queue in Teams, because all you're doing is you're adding the Teams extensions to your call queue in 3CX.
That's right. Yeah. So, Teams client just simply acts as another extension on 3CX. All the queues and stuff is handled on 3CXN.
That's right. So all you're really doing, Mark, is you're using the extensions of Teams, and those extensions in Teams are being added as extensions in 3CX. So you can then add those Teams extensions as agents in a call queue. Okay, next question. For a receptionist, would you suggest her using the 3CX web client, or can she use Teams?
Because of BLFs and stuff, I think 3CX client would be better for receptionist. But you can use either 3CX web client or Teams. It will work as similar. But I feel like it will be easier for receptionist with BLFs and other stuff.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's probably easier using the receptionist, or say on 3CX. And because it depends on, if you're having all your call queues and ring groups and everything on 3CX, that's really where you want your receptionist to reside, because then you can forward the call back into a sales queue, or if the receptionist forwards the call to a Teams extension, well, then it just goes across a direct routing connection to that Teams user and rings on the Teams client. So I think it's probably best to leave them on 3CX. Next question. What are the differences between 3CX integration into Teams versus Telstra direct calling SBC solution? So Mark, with the Telstra TCO, it's actually built into Microsoft Teams. So there's no outside PBX functionality that you can configure. You need to be able to utilize everything inside Teams. So like I said before, if there's features that are lacking in Teams that you have available in 3CX, that's where the differentiator is. That's where you use a 3CX integration rather than a Telstra TCO integration. And it all comes down to the features that a customer requires. If all they want is simple dial tone, then Teams is probably a good fit for them, especially if they're already using Teams in their organization. They've already got licenses. Then it's probably a cheaper solution to use Microsoft Teams. But if they need advanced functionality, they need advanced call queues, they need some call center type features, then 3CX is probably going to be a better fit there. Another question from Neil: what license for Teams is needed? So like SAS has got it up on the screen for you already. So depending on what licenses you have available, the main thing you need is the Microsoft Teams Phone Standard license. Now, if you have like an Office E5, so Office 365 E5 license, that already includes the Teams Phone Standard license. But like we've got here, the Office 365 E3, that doesn't include the Teams Phone Standard license. So we need to use that license as well as Office 365 E3.
Yep.
Is a transfer call function available using 3CX via Teams? So have you tried that, SAS? Have you tried actually answering a call on 3CX and then transferring it to a Teams extension?
I have, yeah, and it works fine.
That works fine. Okay, so you can actually transfer calls to and from Teams extensions to 3CX extensions.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Roberta, if using MP series Teams phones, are all functions enabled, including contacts, etc.? So if you're on a Teams client, and so your contacts on your Teams phone sync with the contacts you've configured on your Teams client. Now, because the contacts on 3CX and on Teams sync, then yes, you should be able to see all of those contacts and be able to transfer calls on the Yelling MP phones as well. That is right, isn't it, SAS? Those users do sync both ways.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. All right, another. Okay, it was Aaron again asking for use cases. All right, guys. Is there any other questions? Perfect timing, Sass. Almost half an hour on the dot, mate. Done well.
Perfect. All right. I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. See you all on the next Lunch and Learn session.
Thanks, guys.